in, paranormal community, and welcome to this episode of the Odyssey Files. I am your host, Michael O'Neill. With me, barely, as always, is my co-host, Mr. David Soyering. Good evening, Dave.
Good evening, Mike. Good evening, Paranormal Universe. Got a good show tonight. I'm in a good mood. The Vikings finally managed to pull a victory out of their asses, so I'm happy about that. Although it's like the middle of July here today on October 1st, I think we set a record high. It's unbearably hot. So that does suck if you are a fan of Minnesota and a fan of fall weather. And it's not supposed to be 93 degrees, well, 91 or whatever, but like real feels like 90 something, 93, 94 degrees with the humidity. So
yeah, I didn't.
That's not fun.
I wasn't paying much attention to the weather or whatever, but I was watching like top stories and stuff like that on my computer, and I guess the Minneapolis Marathon was canceled today because
last second, really.
Well, it was like 2 hours before, I think is what they said.
They canceled it it started at 8 a.m. Yeah. It's supposed to start at 8 a.m. and they canceled it at 6:17 a.m.
Fun times.
Go Minnesota.
Yep. Yeah, average temperature at this time is 60.
Exactly.
So the fact that it's 90, thank you, global warming. But yes, we do have an amazing show. We have volume 1 of our scientific mysteries, and that is
that doesn't exist. You know that.
What doesn't exist? Oh, global warming, right? Okay, so apparently Dave and I have a severe, like 2 or 3 second delay. And this is going to be a show.
Well, it's funny, on video we're not delayed, so I wonder why we're delayed on audio.
I don't know. Maybe we'll just have to read lips for the entire show.
We'll just put an additional 2-second pause in there, so we've got a bunch of uncomfortable dead time for the next 2 hours. That'll be fun.
You're welcome, listeners. and you could blame Dave's 2010 laptop for
like in 1996.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah.
All righty. So we have I'm just going to preface the mailbag tonight by saying there's going to be a lot of ranting and raving, probably mostly by me, but just prepare for that sort of thing. It is that type of mailbag. And yeah. So get ready for comedy. So what do you say we get the show on the road?
Yeah, we certainly can. I want to say something. We had this scientific topic, right? Like we were talking about stuff that has like stumped science. So I'm like, you know what? I'm throwing crop circles out there because we haven't talked about crop circles in a long time. And I'm like, I know that they're man-made at times and hoaxed and whatever. I get it. But then there's also those crop circles that obviously are not man-made. Well, I ended up finding just an absolute ton of research. So tonight we are not talking about crop circles. We're going to save that for a future show.
Okay.
So I've got one topic instead of 2. So I'm going to talk about my one topic extensively.
Well, it is a pretty extensive topic, so I don't think that's going to be.
It is a pretty extensive topic, yeah. I agree.
It's not going to be like that big. Plus, I have my own as well,
right,
to talk about.
Right.
Which they're both. Well, I have 3, but one I'm not sure I'm going to talk about. But there's 2 that are definitely still up in the air. Like nobody knows what went on with them. So we'll get to those in the second hour. But first, let's do listener emails. The Odyssey Files is proud to present the Mailbag. All righty. Here we go. Number one. This is a preemptive sigh. I'll just put that out there. All right. What would you say is the most definitive way to experience an undeniably paranormal event? Like, that is the longest way of asking that question. So here we go. Hi, guys. So I'm 99% skeptical. Are you sure you didn't write this, Dave?
No, I did not write it.
Okay.
Because I would be the opposite way. So I'm 99% sure that everything that the paranormal exists. So no, I'm not skeptical.
Okay, that fair enough. All right. So I'm 99% skeptical when it comes to anything paranormal, but that tiny 1% is on my mind daily. I do personally love the spooky season and watch supposed paranormal compilations all the time on YouTube because it's fun. However, there really are only a small handful of videos and pictures that make me think, could that really be real? I've had people in my life tell me they've had encounters just like everybody else. I never discredit what they saw or heard, and I'm always genuinely interested in their experience. Still, I'll keep my skepticisms to myself because it's more than likely not true. Like, are you really, really sure that time you witnessed a possession wasn't just some old lady having a stroke? Perfectly acceptable question to ask. Are you really, really sure that those footsteps and whispering you heard weren't just house noises, and or your imagination because you got spookies? I don't know what spookies are, but I'm assuming that means you spooked yourself up.
Yeah.
But I swear you could put me in a padded room with the world's best medium, no fixtures or electronics, no hidden doors, nothing. If that wizard summons the spirit right in front of me, and even if I can go up to it and feel it, I'm still probably going to explain it away as a trick that I just can't understand, simply because that medium was there. And I just can't be sure that I'm not being fooled somehow. I just want it to be me and my untampered devices. Anyway, I'm totally open to suggestions. I think I feel like going on a ghost hunt. Okay.
Here comes rant number one, people.
We've talked about this before, that there is a difference between a skeptical person and a cynic.
Right.
And if you're talking about being put into a room with somebody who is there to conjure spirit, and you can walk up to it and you can feel it and you can see it, and you're still like, oh, I'm being tricked. That is a cynic. And right. You should just move on with your life and not deal with this whatsoever, because there's no point in wasting your time. And I love the fact that you're 99% skeptical, but that one little percent is on your mind daily. So I kind of think that maybe you're a little bit off on your numbers as well. Because if, like, I'm 1% certain that Kim Kardashian, and I would get along. She's never on my mind, ever. Why would she be? I don't know if that was a good example or comparison, but all I'm saying is, when something that forms that little bit of your mind is on your mind daily, you're not, it's not a 1% thing. So I think you just need to be, like, sure of yourself. And why would you waste money going on a quote unquote ghost hunt, which I hate that word in general, for something that you have already admitted to you're not going to believe? So, I mean, I do give you props on letting people tell you about their experiences and you not just being like, you're a complete moron. Uh, I still remember, still to this day, right after like my very first home investigation when Moondance Paranormal was still in existence, and it was Steve and I at the Chi County Fair, whatever that's called, Chisago County Fair.
Yep.
Did I have that name right? Well, either way, him and I are sitting there.
Saw.
Yeah, there we go. And a guy came by, saw what we were, and said, "Let me know when you find Elvis," and laughed at us and walked away. That guy is a cynic, and that's fine. You can be cynic. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't sit there and say, "I want to go on a ghost hunt." Why? It's completely worthless to you. No matter what happens, you're going to explain it away. And you might as well just sit in your chair at home and stare at the wall. It's gonna matter that much to you. So again, nothing wrong with being a cynic if you want to be a cynic. But there's no real room for you in something that is, at least right now, like 75% theories and assumptions and guesswork, and experiences and learning. So if you don't want to be a part of that, stay away. That's all I got.
Okay. So cynic. See, I didn't even go there. So that's interesting that you took that route. So so I like this phrase. I just want it to be me and my untampered devices. So I'm going to assume here, I'm going out on a limb and doing the assumption factor here, that untampered devices is nothing more than like common sense and tactile sensations. Because if you're 99% skeptical, I'm going to pretty much assume that you do not have any type of paranormal equipment, nor would you put any faith in any type of piece of paranormal equipment. So if the K2s are going off and the REM pods are screaming and the spirit box is spitting out full sentences and with intelligent answers that are directly related to the questions that you're asking, I'm going to assume that you're just going to throw all of that away as garbage. So this is what I would say. Pretty much online with Mike, except for the fact that there is no undeniably paranormal event. So what you're asking for is the goose that laid the golden egg. If we, and I say we as the general consensus of the paranormal field, had an undeniably paranormal event, why would we want to share it with other people that were in such a way that they wouldn't believe something being conjured right in front of them? Like, I wouldn't even waste my time putting you on the guest list. If we were going to invite, and then people would get invited, like if we had an undeniably paranormal event, would we invite people? Certainly we would. Would we invite skeptics? Certainly we would. But I guess now that after listening to Mike, I'm kind of going with the same thought process, that this isn't a skeptic. This is somebody who's just never going to believe. So I think the best bet for you, I mean, I appreciate you taking the time to write in, but I think the best bet for you is just stick to your YouTube surfing now that it's spooky season, and get your fill of fun, manipulated videos that are out there, and way, way over the top reactions to shit, because that's the absolute worst part about those videos. I don't even care about bad fakery for paranormal events. I can't handle the people with their just totally asinine responses to like something paranormal. It's so bad. And yet they have millions of subscribers, and I just shake my head as to exactly I don't know. Anyway, that's a whole different topic. So I would say we don't have an undeniably paranormal event, so you're safe. You don't have to worry about it. That's all I got.
Yep. Uh,
All right. So number 2, moving on. What happens when you troll a spirit instead of getting scared? I grew up terrified in what I thought was a very haunted apartment. I would come home to my Barbies thrown in my hallway. We found my mom's rosary in various locations throughout the house and sounds of dragging feet in the hallway. I often wondered what would happen if, when the spirit or entity tried to confront me, if instead of being afraid, I busted out theatrically singing Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up, including some air humping, possibly some horrible rendition of Celine Dion, That's the Way It Is. As a middle aged woman, when I run downstairs to grab a soda, I start singing ridiculous songs to confuse anything that might be lurking down there. I don't know. I feel like whatever is haunting me or the house would be like, this bitch is weird. I'm out of here. LOL. What do you think? I think that sounds absolutely hilarious. And if that's what you need to do to get over your fear, then I think you totally should do it. I think you should pick whatever song and throw in some air guitar and some air humping and maybe a little bit of some dance moves, and use that as your safety blanket. And I think that's completely fine. I think it's hilarious. I haven't heard a question like this. If I've even ever heard a question like this, it's been a long time. The other thing you could do is put a little mini college fridge upstairs. Then you don't have to run downstairs to grab a soda, and then you don't have to worry about doing any of the stuff that you mentioned. So other than that, I think it's hilarious. I would do it. And then I think you're right. I think that whatever happens to be at your house, and now we're going on the assumption again that there's something there in the first place. But I think that whatever would be there would be just like, yeah, this lady's a little bit too weird for me. I'm going to go someplace where I'm going to get accomplished whatever it is that I'm trying to accomplish as far as the spirit talking now. But go for it. I think it's a great idea.
I absolutely love the thought of trolling a spirit or doing something. I never thought about Rickrolling a spirit, and now I do. And I do believe that on my next investigation, I will do that. The only problem is you can't talk to, or you can't Rickroll a spirit from the 1800s. They don't know what the hell it is. To them, all you're doing is acting, crazy and insane, which I agree is a great way to get over your fear and to turn that against whatever spirit may be trying to do it, if that is their goal. I mean, if their goal is to scare you, the best thing to do is not be scared. But I know I have had cases where like a spirit or even two are there specifically because they like the environment. They liked the like laid back, have people over. They like the party atmosphere. They like the energy. So I mean, you might it might be anti-productive to become like a really fun person, because then they might interact with you more, because now you're entertaining as opposed to a target. And there's really nothing wrong with that. I mean, honestly, if you have a spirit and all they want to do is dance with you, you're really not in any danger. So I mean, it just goes along with the whole don't be scared, which is, I would hope, the main goal is to just not be scared. Agree with Dave. Love the theory. Maybe you could choose another Celine Dion song, then That's the Way It Is, because that's not bad. Maybe My Heart Will Go On. I think even spirits can agree that is a little old at the present moment. But the fact that you thought about Rickrolling them is the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life. It's I am gonna try that, and I will let everybody know how that goes. But yeah, that's all I got with that one. I love the idea very much.
Yeah, the only question I have is I wonder if I'm assuming, and again, I'm assuming here that she grew up terrified in what was a haunted apartment with things like Barbies thrown in the hallway, mom's rosary. Kind of, to me, a mom's rosary would be a religious object. If it wasn't something trying to be a dick, it would choose something other than the rosary, I guess would be what I would say, right? It could choose a different piece of jewelry, a set of keys, a locket with a picture of her grandma in it, whatever. It could choose a million different things other than the rosary. So, you know, I think that whatever there was trying to mess with her. I don't think it was there because it wanted to coexist because it liked the energy. It doesn't sound like that to me. Spirit, and I've had cases like that too. So spirit, I've had, spirits that want to be somewhere because they coexist don't throw shit around and take stuff and hide it on you. Knowing that if you get tired of it, there's a possibility that they're going to be expelled. So I would think that in this particular case, I don't think it was a coexist type of thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was when I used that example of the party atmosphere and stuff like that, there wasn't a comparison as opposed to this is what's going on in this person's place. It was just what could happen.
Gotcha.
Because a spirit a spirit can change their mind or could just like something different about a place.
I totally think that you should go for the Rickrolling, and I think you should get it on camera, and I think you should have a couple different recorders rolling and see, because God, I would love to see the EVP that came off of that.
Please stop.
I don't know. Whatever it's going to be. I mean, it would be great if like something started singing along with you, or somebody says, check out those moves, or I don't know. It was like, it reminds me of the time like when we were at the hobby farm case years ago, and Tina and I walked into the horse barn and we get the EVP that says, check out that ass. And then I'm like, Tina, did you see that? And then everybody throws it back on me. And they're like, well, how do you know it was about Tina? And I'm like, well, I guess you're right. I don't know it was about Tina. I guess I was assuming, but you're right. Like who knows what that means? But I mean, that would be great if it was like, check out those moves.
It would be
that
good, except once again, you would have to be at least think that you were dealing with the spirit who would know what it is to be rickrolled.
Well, true. And, being kind of old school in my beliefs, I'm not of the school that a spirit from the 1800s is going to know what anything currently is. And now, obviously, we've had guests on the show that are completely 100% opposite of that belief, that they believe that the spirits stay up to snuff with everything that's going on. And if they've been around since the 1800s, that they're completely on board with every single thing that's happened since the 1800s all the way up to current day. So if that is the case, then I would make the argument that they would know what being rickrolled was. For me personally, I would think that you're right. Somebody who passed away in the early 1900s or even in the 1950s isn't going to know what being rickrolled is.
But
then should. Again, but there's also the opportunity there then to, and not that you're going to answer that question off of one EVP, obviously, but there's also the question, the possibility there then to expand that avenue of investigation of, do spirits that died a long time ago have any clue as to what a REM pod is, right? I mean, because that was what the conversation we had came up with was, well, of course they know what a REM pod is. Well, why, no, they don't. Like, what the hell would they know what a REM pod is? If they died in 1906, they wouldn't know what anything electronic was. They wouldn't know they'd be totally freaked out by what a cell phone is. Why would they know what these things are? And why would they want to, why would they want to stick around and keep up to date with what's happening anyway? I mean, that whole concept kind of blows me away.
I don't know.
Jesus Christ, move on. If you died in 1908, and you got nothing better to do than to sit around and hang out for 115 years, like watching time go by and keeping up to date with electronic technology, seriously, move on. Go walk into the light. So
Speaking of
anyway,
moving on,
speaking of moving on, number 3, do ghosts exist? I
this
know.
this is mine. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right.
Ah,
Yeah, move on. What are you taking your time for?
Jeez, Dave. Settle down there, buddy. Anyway, all right, number 3. Do ghosts exist? I know what you were probably thinking. Of course, ghosts are real. I've seen one before, but another thing I've come across over in my years of ghost hunting is yes, you see plenty of ghosts. But are you actually looking at a ghost or are your eyes tricking you? This is called pareidolia, a phenomenon which occurs when you are wondering or just generally thinking about ghosts and your mind just makes it happen. Here's an example. You are reading this question right now, probably thinking about ghosts and other paranormal activities. But imagine you look at a picture and read the heading and it says something about a ghost in the mirror, and then your mind could trick you into seeing a ghost. So, my question is, are they real? And the answer is we can't really know this. And yes, I know about poltergeists, but do other ghosts exist? What do you guys think? I think you're an effing moron. That's what I think. But I'll go into more detail. So,
Can't wait.
I just thank you for the definition of pareidolia. Appreciate that because Dave and I would know what that is. You have years of ghost hunting experience, and yet you are still asking, are ghosts real? And I will say that as I was reading your question, I was not thinking about ghosts. I was thinking about whether you have taken your medication or not. That's what I was thinking. I just I don't even know where to begin without swearing a lot. So obviously pareidolia exists, matrixing exists. Dave and I have joked about it on the show many times. Our favorite example as of recently is Rebecca from ParaX posting the photo of her like German Shepherd sitting on it, behind his screen door, and all she said was, "What do you guys see?" Like that was it. There was no other caption, and like 3/4 of the people that commented saw a demon.
Yep.
Like that's not even pareidolia. That's just stupidity. And it happens, but when you have years of, I'll just put this in parentheses or not parentheses, but quotations because this is how he phrased it. Years of ghost hunting, you tend not to fall for matrixing and pareidolia. And if you do, then you have other people like your team to say like, no, this is what we see and wanna. And if it's even in question, you throw it out. Now I know Dave, you're not a big fan of the whole ghost hunters and taps is when in doubt, throw it out.
Not at all.
But sometimes that is what you have to do. Sometimes they kind of have this all the time, and I 100% agree with you on that one. I don't like that theory, but sometimes when there's just so much like, could it be this, could it be that, could it be that, it's not going to do anybody any good for you to continue to sit there and try to figure it out. It's not going to help the field. It's not going to help your case. It's not going to help your client. So you just have to move on to something else that does. So I don't, obviously we did a poltergeist show last week. And honestly, a poltergeist to me, and I know Dave disagrees a little bit, but a poltergeist is not a ghost. A poltergeist is a PK manifestation of a human person, in my opinion. But yeah, yeah, God, just stop. Uh, uh, I know there are people who are rookies who are just learning, who don't have the experience that Dave and I have, who don't have the knowledge that Dave and I have. That yes, they do trick themselves into thinking that something that they're experiencing or hearing is in fact a spirit,
Mhm.
or a ghost. I mean, Grant Wilson himself is when you go into a location convinced that you are going to, looking for a ghost, you are going to find a ghost. Whether it's accurate or not, you are going to find it. And I get that. But again, that's why Dave and I, especially, are if you're going to go out on an investigation or something, go with people who know what they're doing because they can tell you that could be this, that could be this, that's not what you think it is, it's this, because they have that knowledge and experience to do it. Um, so I think that your entire premise is arrogant and presumptuous, and I just want to postal stamp you in the forehead. With that said, here's Dave.
So I love my many years of ghost hunting, and yes, you see plenty of ghosts. That right there tells me that this person knows absolutely nothing about the paranormal field, because I know people that are dedicated, that are very like analytical, and that have been involved in the paranormal because they really have an intense desire to like figure out the question of what happens after we die type of thing, that have never had an experience and actually seen a ghost. Like they've had some cool experiences, but they've never seen a ghost. So for somebody to say that you see plenty of ghosts, that right there was the bullshit stamp for me. Which we still need to get the bullshit stamp. We got to find that we can throw a bullshit stamp on it. But I sometimes you got to take these questions like this along with the legitimate good ones. I try not to be judgmental when I'm choosing questions. I think that a question like this has its place, and I think its place is this show, and for Mike to read it. That's what I thought, and that's why I chose this one. So here's my response to this. So the question that he's asking is, and I think this is a guy for whatever reason. I have a feeling this is a male writing this. So my question is, are ghosts real? Absolutely, ghosts are real. I have already proven it time and time and time again. I will say this. I have probably had more paranormal experiences when I'm not trying to have a paranormal experience that are like being in a paranormal situation, looking for paranormal things. I have had more experiences outside of those situations than I have had inside of those situations. So I get the whole, if you go into a situation looking for something, I think that holds some water for people that don't have a lot of experience in a particular field. So let's say a rookie investigator. But anybody who's seasoned, anybody who's got some time under their belt, anybody who's been on, I don't know that there's an actual number, but at least a dozen investigations, let's say, like you've been out in the field at least a dozen times. Because I think you really got to get your feet wet out in the field, and it doesn't need to be at a client's house, and it does, and it could be at a general location like an old prison that's now closed down. It could be at a cemetery. It could be at a client's house, reporting activity that they are scared of, that they want some help with. It could be just about anything. It could be at an antique store. I got great personal experiences at antique stores where I see stuff happen. And we've got some great stories that come out of the Twin Cities at antique stores and shop owners that have had some really unbelievable stuff happen in their stores because spiritual energy is attached to objects sometimes. So I think that I'm not even going to touch the poltergeist thing because Mike already answered that one. So I think that is the question, are ghosts real? Yes, ghosts are real. This person's reading too much into it. Pareidolia has nothing to do with whether ghosts are real or not. That's a totally different thing. That has to do with photographs and tricks of your mind playing tricks on you. It has nothing to do with the question of are ghosts real, in my opinion. So yes, we can really know this. And yes, ghosts are real. So that's what I think. All right. Anything else to add to our seasoned ghost hunter who has seen plenty of ghosts?
Nope. I still have plenty of stuff in reserves for everything else we're going to talk about tonight.
For number 6?
For number 4, number 6, number 5.
You're on a roll, man. All right, number 4. So, dumb question. So, if I see something that freaks me out, a spirit or dark shadow, should I run away from it or run to it? If I run away, it'll come after me. But if I challenge it, it might just disappear, right? Okay. I'm going to do my best to answer this question. Right. I would agree with you in a very basic sense. And I stress that in a very basic sense. Should you be afraid of it? Way too hard to tell. If you're having a whole bunch of paranormal things that are freaking you out or freaking out loved ones in your house, ruining your life, and it's showing itself to you, and showing itself to you is after all of this other stuff that has happened that has really ruined time on the planet Earth for you, should you run at it? Probably not. But I get if you run away from it, it's just going to continue to come after you because you're going to show fear. And I'm not a big one for showing fear. So that side of me is going to say, yeah, don't run away from it. I think the best thing here is not to run to it or run away from it, but the best thing to do would be to stand your ground and establish your perimeter, establish your space, claim your space, establish your space, let whatever it is that's messing with you, know that this is your space and it's not welcome. And see what happens. And if it doesn't go away, then obviously it's time to take the next step, which is to get in a qualified team, document what's happening, take that evidence, that documented evidence, find a good psychic medium, somebody that can do cleansings and clearings, have them come in, find out, let them come in and experience it, see what's happening, see if everybody is on the same page, and then get a good solid game plan there to get your life back. That would be my advice. But I get the question of, should I run away from it? No, you should not run away from it. But challenging really negative energy, like challenging something that truly is, and dare I use the D word, challenging something that's really negative, we'll just use negative, whether it be a human negative spirit or whether it be something that was never human, would not be a good course of action. Because you can't win a fight with something that you can't physically grab, would be the reason why I say that. So running to it and challenging it, you can't win that fight. So I don't see what the point of doing that would be, other than potentially putting yourself in harm's way even worse.
I didn't want to interrupt if you had anything else.
Nope, that's it. Sorry. Yeah, clear.
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 So you took this a different way than I did, because I took it more sarcastically. Shocker, I know. Because as I read this, and I read this like 2 or 3 times before I could grasp anything, because what it seemed to me is you're confusing a spirit with a high school bully. Like just seemed to me like this is like what mom tells you to do when you're being bullied at school. Like, you need to stand up for yourself, because if you challenge them, they're going to back down. And that's just not the way the paranormal works. In fact, as you were saying, challenging spirits who are trying to get at you often only makes things like 1,000 times worse, because that's when you start doing the whole uh you invite them to do something to you, come on, do your words, blah blah blah,
Right.
like, and that's when you start making all of these really big mistakes. And when you start doing that, you're like, I get the intent, I get what you're trying to do, but what you are actually doing is giving them free reign to f you up.
Right.
And they probably will if you say the wrong thing, depending on what their thing about it is. If the presumption of, if I run, it'll come after me, is not correct. It doesn't have to come after you. It can just do whatever it wants to do. And if its intent is to make you run away, then it got its goal and it's not going to come after you. And again, I think you're trying to take like the whole high school bully theory of how to react to them, and putting it towards the supernatural, and it just doesn't work that way, unfortunately. um so I mean, yes, you have to stand your ground if there is a spirit that seemingly is coming after you, or uh trying to invade your life in any way, shape, or form. But you have to be much smarter about it than if you just were dealing with a living person. Because as Dave said, you can't just walk up and punch it in the face. And I can't tell you how many episodes
Right.
of paranormal shows I've seen where it's like, how do I fight something I can't see or feel? I can't see or touch, and you can't, unfortunately. And that is, as Dave said, that's when you bring in the psychic medium. That's when you bring in the reputable paranormal team, because that is what they and we are. I don't want to say trained so much, but that is what we are like set up to do. Like, that's our goal, is to be your, I don't want to say your bodyguard, but to be, the kind of the wall in between you and it, to try and protect you and get rid of whatever is trying to come after you. But you personally uh, need to, I guess, assess the situation and then try to be smart about it. Um, but yeah, I would just lose the theory, or the whole like mindset of, if I run, it'll chase me. If I challenge it, it might disappear, because that's not the way it works,
No.
unfortunately.
Even a
But yeah,
human
that's all.
spirit, even if it's a previous homeowner or something like that,
Oh
isn't
yeah,
going to run away from you. It doesn't have to be something negative. You know,
very true.
I just use negative as an example because I don't want to see somebody get hurt challenging something to a fist fight that they can't obviously challenge in the first place. So
Yep. Yep. Alrighty. Oh, and just to finish that out, yes, there are such things as dumb questions. Don't know if that was
I don't think that one was a dumb question. Do
I,
you
I
think that was a dumb question?
I didn't, no, but I'm just saying that yes, there are.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Uh,
I've read
yes,
some ones that are on the border.
yeah. Well, I actually I went into a customer this past week, just real quick, funny story, and I said, I have a stupid cupcake question for you, and the lady who I was talking to was like, there's no such thing as a stupid question. I go, yes, there is, and she she goes, oh, okay. Don't think she expected that from me.
Probably
Um,
not.
all right. So anyway, all right, number 5. Ever seen a quote unquote unconventional ghost? Hi guys, have either of you ever seen something like this? Perhaps disabled in a wheelchair, extremely overweight or underweight, overly tall, or maybe super short? Anything obvious? Most ghosts seem to be quote unquote normal. I think you like have a completely like back assward way of looking at the paranormal, like people who are super short or overweight or underweight or disabled, and they are not unconventional. They're not abnormal. That's how they were in real life. Now, if I saw a ghost with 3 arms, yeah, that would be unconventional. But a super short ghost, why would that be unconventional? Why would that not be considered normal if the person was super short in real life? So I think that your stereotyping of like ghosts and whatnot is way off. Um, I'm assuming what you consider to be normal is like, 5'9" and in good shape and great hair. And that's just that's just not that's just do some spirits appear like that? Sure, because that's how they looked in real life.
Right.
I have seen a full bodied apparition, and he was skinny, and he was wearing jeans and his shirt and a jacket and a baseball cap. Uh, you know, is that unconventional? Who knows? I would say no. I would say that looked normal. Any spirit who looks like a human being would be, to me, considered normal. Disabled in a wheelchair is not unconventional. And yes, they do exist. People have seen they appear as all sorts of things, especially if you go to like a tuberculosis place or an insane asylum where people were mistreated. You s- People will see full-bodied apparitions of all kinds of you know uh, people with blood on their clothes or scratches or scars, or they'll have deep bloodshot eyes, or whatever. That's just the way, unfortunately, they looked in real life. It doesn't mean that they're unconventional. um so I would just lose that whole stereotyping attitude. And if anybody out there sees like a headless spirit or a spirit with 3 arms or 6 toes, I don't know, then yeah, that would be considered unconventional. And no, I have not ever seen anything like that.
I I can honestly say I have not seen an unconventional spirit or an unconventional ghost. And I agree with you, Mike, on the to me, these examples are not in any way, shape, or form unconventional. They're just they would just be life circumstances for the individual that passed away. And then are they trapped in that, is it an elderly person who was in a wheelchair the last 20 years of their life, or a disabled vet, that succumbed to their injuries from, a war incident or something like that. Um, to me, like an unconventional ghost would be, and I don't know why this popped into my head, and this is unconventional. Although I don't necessarily consider this, I guess you could call it a ghost, but to me, something that would be an unconventional spirit would be a creeper. I hate creepers. So they're disturbing. They come running down the hallway on 2 legs, and then next thing you know, they're on all fours, and then they're scurrying up the wall, and then they're freaking coming across the ceiling, and f that, man. That's just bullshit. That's just when you're in a vulnerable, dark situation, and you see something walk down the hall and then start scurrying on all fours and then go up on the ceiling, that's just not fair. That's when you got to throw the flag, go outside for a smoke break. I don't smoke, but to me that would be an unconventional ghost because they're playing outside the parameters of what's normal. Most of the time spirits like that are dark spirits. So I guess that would be unconventional. Have I seen anything unconventional? Like, to me, it would have to be something really unique, like a two-headed spirit, or multiple limbs, like Mike said, 4 arms, something along those lines. And no, I have not seen anything like that. Most of the spirits that I've encountered have shown themselves to me in a capacity that they feel comfortable showing themselves in, would be the best way to put it. It's a way that they want to be seen. It's a way that they want to be remembered. We've talked about this many times on the show before. Somebody who dies in a tragic accident, bad car accident or something like that, they're not going to want to walk around with their head half caved in, and they're not going to want to show themselves like that to their loved ones if they're going to say their last goodbyes. That's not what they're going to do. They're going to choose a time in their life when life was better before this unfortunate incident happened to them, and that's how they're going to show themselves. So no sense beating a dead horse there. So no, I've never run across what I would consider to be an unconventional ghost other than a creeper. So okay, number 6. I know we need to get to this here before the break, and we got 9 minutes left, and I think it's going to take just about 9 minutes to talk about this one. So should we open a portal to hell in our barn? That is the question. So every year my family hosts a pretty epic Halloween party with about 100 to 150 guests, and we turn our barn into a haunted house. We do different themes every year, and this year with the new Exorcist movie coming out, which I'm really looking forward to seeing, and The Nun 2, which I saw, which was pretty good, we were thinking about theming it on demons, possession, and portals to hell. I'm not a Christian or a religious person, but I am pagan, and I do believe in ghosts and spirits. My partner is an atheist / Satanist. He is super stoked about the idea, and I'm not going to lie, I'm partially terrified about opening an actual portal to hell in our barn, LOL. My biggest concern is using a Ouija board as a prop. I'm thinking of getting or making an animatronic board so people won't actually be using it or touching it. Is this a terrible idea? Are we just asking for trouble opening our house up to be haunted with evil entities? Well, okay. Do I think it's a terrible idea to just take a Ouija board and leave it out as a prop and invite people to 150 guests for somebody to just arbitrarily pick it up and start playing with it when they don't know what they're doing? I would consider that to be irresponsible as hell. So is that a terrible idea? Yeah, that's a terrible idea. 86 that. There's so many things that you can do for a Halloween party that's going to be scary, like with demons and possession and shit. I don't even know what. You don't even need a Ouija board. Like, don't even bring it out. Just don't even get one. Just go take a look online, and if you can't come up with, I mean, I could probably think of 50 different things that I could decorate a barn with if I was going to do a Halloween party in a barn with demons of possession and portals to hell, that a Ouija board wouldn't even cross my mind, to be honest with you. So I think do I think it's a terrible idea? I do. Are you asking for trouble opening your house up to be haunted with evil entities? Well, if I would consider that to be a reckless idea. So are you asking for trouble? I think you are. I think if you got 150 guests and there's alcohol involved and there's some mild drug use, and you are going to just arbitrarily leave some Ouija boards around and let people just play with them with no clue what they're doing, is there going to be some sort of post-party ramification? My gut would tell me yes. So I think it's a poor idea. Now, I am going to say this. The fact that your partner, who's a Satanist and an atheist, is super stoked about the idea, right there is you're asking for trouble for your house to be haunted with evil entities. So I'm not sure that the Ouija board is really the only thing here that you need to be concerned about, I guess, would be how I would look at this question. I think it's a super cool Halloween party idea. I like the fact that it's tying into the new Exorcist movie and The Nun 2, which I'm going to see The Exorcist in about a week, and I saw The Nun 2. Good, scary movie for this season. I think it's a great theme, but I would not bust out the Ouija boards. That would be, and I just don't like Ouija boards anyway, so that's a simple answer for me.
Great.
He's got the face going. You got 5 minutes left.
Nope. We're going to take a break right now.
Oh, all right.
And when we come back, I'm going to stretch while we do it. Take some Pepto-Bismol.
He's going to get ready. He's going to get the vocal pipes all stretched out so he can lay and do it.
Yep. Swallow some Pepto-Bismol because I need it. And yeah, so we will be back here in 2 minutes and we'll see you then.
Hey, this is Mike Couch from Lost Limbs Foundation. Make sure you check out Mike and Dave on the Odyssey Files because they really need the listeners.
Hello, I'm Al Lagarde from Paper Route Productions, executive producer of Kindred Spirits, Paranormal State, a whole bunch of television shows. And I've worked with a lot of people on paranormal projects and met a lot of people in paranormal radio. And I want to say that Dave and Mike are two people who have a face for radio, in particular, internet radio.
Hey, it's Chris Fleming. More painful than a Tyrannosaurus Rex stepping on your testicle. Listen to Dave and Mike on Odyssey Files.
Hey everybody, it's Chad Lindbergh, and you are listening to the Odyssey Files with David and Michael. And let me tell you, it's almost as painful as a Skype glitch.
This is Andy Lynch, Director of Photography of Kindred Spirits. And when I'm not filming Amy and Adam at some creepy location, you can find me listening to the Odyssey Files with Dave and Mike. Or doing something else, I don't know.
Hello everyone, this is Ken Vogel. You know, you hear so many great moments during each and every episode of the Odyssey Files with Dave and Mike, but if I had to really choose my favorite moment, it would have to be when the show is over.
And we're back. Just wait for Dave to stop chewing. So his mid-show snack. Okay. This one hurts my head because I hate every word in it. Like every word. Even the. I hate the in it. And I'm just going to start with your partner. Atheists, Satanists. Atheist means you don't believe in a God, but yet you worship a Satan, who is in I guess for all intents and purposes the god of hell. So you're pretty much like canceling each other out. Like you're your own oxymoron. Emphasis on moron. And I don't even know if that's possible for you to be both of them, because they mean the opposite of each other. So maybe your partner doesn't actually exist. I mean, that alone, like, honestly, just that line almost made me throw the bullshit flag. Like, just in general. I mean, that the whole thing is written to spark like my sort of anger or get people riled up at the stupidity of which you are asking. Do you think it's a good idea to open up your home to evil spirits? Let me think about that one. It's a bad idea. And honestly, maybe not for you. Like, I don't wish harm on anybody, except maybe Baggins, but and you. Like, I want you guys to go ahead and do this. I think it's a great idea. Just do it. Just let the portals to hell swallow you all up. And then if your partner's Lord and Master, Satan, will give you a computer with some email, I want you to email us and let us know how you're doing in hell. And I don't think you're going to find it to be pleasant. So I like this. This just seems to be another one of those I'm going to take this as they're like legitimately asking this question and legitimately thinking that this is a good idea. Like this is one of those instances where people believe the paranormal is a party favor. Like it's there for humanity's entertainment and they're like, oh, nothing's going to happen to us, evil spirits. And they all say it with like this laughter. And it's people who think like that drive me insane. And I hate I hate like every second of it. And every word that comes out of their mouth. So is it a terrible idea? Yes, it is a very, very terrible idea. Here's my other thing. Your biggest concern is using a Ouija board as a prop. You want to open a portal to hell, but a Ouija board is your biggest concern. I think you have your concerns a little screwed up. Maybe your biggest concern should be your partner. just saying. I'm sure you love him. I'm sure he's a great person. I can't imagine how, but maybe. Yeah. Just no. And I'm proud of myself for not swearing during this. So that's all I got. Just no. Okay. Well, that's all. That's everything we have. Unless you have anything more you want to add?
Nope. I think that's a perfect segue into getting into our topic for the day.
Into scientific mysteries. So before we do that, I probably should have mentioned this before the show, but it always slips my mind. So I'm going to do it right now because it can be a future topic on the show. And so I had, how Facebook always has those memories, pop up, this was your post from 10 years ago. So I saw a post that I made however many years ago it was. And it was about hearing about a radio show called Two Chicks and Some Wine. I don't know if that's even a thing anymore or what, because this was years ago. I think this was even before the Odyssey Files existed. So my response to that was, if I ever do a radio show, it should be called Two Dudes and Some Chips. And so I think for a future show, it should be like episode 195, Two Dudes and Some Chips. And it's just going to be Dave and I chatting for 2 hours, eating Doritos.
Talking about our favorite flavors of Doritos and Fritos.
We don't need to talk about chips.
As I say, I do like me some chili cheese Fritos.
They are really good.
They are addictive. Like when you open that bag, you're in a world of hurt because it isn't one of those things where you're just going to have a couple and then be done with it.
So two things. One, maybe in the future, if we ever run into some issues with a topic or something like that, we'll just sit back and eat some chips and chat about the paranormal in general. Or if the Odyssey Files ever goes under, look for us under our new name.
our new title.
We're gonna rebrand ourselves as Two Dudes and Some Chips.
Oh, that's hilarious.
All right, but that does it for the mailbag, and we are now going to move on to our main topic of the night, which is obviously scientific mysteries. And I'll go first because you only have one.
Yeah, I got like 1.5 because my second one kind of is in the same neighborhood as my topic, so it's kind of although they're different, they're on the same continent and they're like next door neighbors. But yeah, you start and then I'll jump in with mine second.
Gotcha. So we're going to start in Costa Rica, and that is Costa Rica 1930s. So we're going back at least 80 years here. Well, 90 years actually. So, but the United Fruit Company, that is, I don't even know if that is still a company, but it was back then. I immediately went to Fruit of the Loom, but I was incorrect. This is an actual company that deals with fruit. But this company was looking for new land in order to plant their banana trees, Costa Rica. And as they were doing this, they came across I don't even know how to pronounce it, Diquis, Diquois Valley, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and they found 300 nearly perfectly round sphere stones. Some of them were just a few inches in diameter, and some of them went all the way up to 6-7 feet in diameter and weighed 16 tons. Just sitting there in the village. Or not the village, but sitting there like in the forest or whatever.
Yep.
No idea who made them. No idea how old they actually are. I did not know this, but I guess you can't carbon date something that is not really alive. So you can't carbon date stone, I guess, because it's an inanimate object. And so they're thinking that it's either between what was it, like 200 BC and yeah, it was like 200 BC up to like the 1600s. I mean, there was like 1800 year gap.
That's a spread of time right there.
Right.
Yeah.
That these could have been made. And there are some people who think that they're older. They're even older than that. And they can't figure out what they were used for. And this actually made me a little angry because we always do this shit. And that is, well, the fruit company who wanted the land in order to plant their new banana trees, moved all of these spheres like out of their way, whether by hand or whether by bulldozer. And they started giving them away to people to use as lawn ornaments and stuff like that. I mean, and that's like classic humanity right there. Like, you have these historic things that nobody can figure out what they're for, but now we never will, because I mean, it's kind of a theory that's out there that they were put in like groupings to form shapes or to form, whatever, arrows. What you see it at Oak Island with Nolan's Cross, that sort of thing. And now we'll never know if that was actually the case because we just nonchalantly moved them all. In fact, there's even one of them is in the courtyard of the Peabody Museum at Harvard. They went ahead and gave one to them. And I guess but the thing about it was, and this is kind of like the silver lining that people said about these, is that they might have been used to symbolize a person's power in the community. So the bigger the ball you got, the more power you got. Very, very masculine, apparently. And it kind of is still doing that because they gave all of these stones out to like the rich people on Costa Rica, and they gave it to the museum, and they gave it to the university, and so they're technically, if that is the case, still doing that today. Like, they're still sitting, to symbolize a person's wealth and power, if they were able to get one of these spheres.
So I'm going to guess that if you're getting a sphere and it determines power, that you want the 8-foot sphere that weighed 16 tons and not the tennis ball size sphere.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I wonder too, because I had seen these when I was kind of doing my research for the show. I wonder too if they weren't laid out in such a way to be some type of ancient representation of like a galaxy, like some star cluster, because that would make sense to me with the different size of the balls, right? Like one of them being like possibly Earth, like the great big one being possibly Earth or the sun, and then these other sphere shapes being, other smaller planets that would be in a system. And it wouldn't necessarily have to be our solar system. I mean, obviously, if they were deposited there or the knowledge was given to the ancient civilization that carved them, it could have been a representation of the solar system that the visitors came from. Kind of what they think happened with Stonehenge or with some of these other henges. How they use them for astronomical charts. And it seems to be a common occurring thing when I was looking at stuff of everything likes to match up with the winter solstice. I don't know what it is with the winter solstice and the paranormal and like with unexplained mysteries, but like everything, and I won't say everything because that's a generality, a lot of things that are out there that we don't understand, that we can't put our human thumbprint on with a definitive answer, which I'm sure frustrates the shit out of scientists, has to do with like winter solstice or like spring solstice, like change of season type of thing. And I wonder what was so important about those times, other than maybe like the end of the planting season, something like that. But winter solstice to me wouldn't be like, I would be more like spring equinox, because now we know it's time to plant. And I think that's what a lot of sundials represented. Like when they cast a certain shadow on a certain place of the earth, they knew, hey, when we see that shadow cast here, we know that this is the time of year when we should be getting the fields ready for our crops. Whereas winter solstice, you're in the dead of winter, ain't shit growing. Well, northern hemisphere anyway. I wonder what the representation for that was.
Yeah, there's I guess one of the things that I forgot to mention, and I can't believe that I did, is that most of these spheres were like perfectly round and very, very smooth. So I mean,
which is possible back then when they were created.
It's possible now. I
Right.
mean, you still see scientists today that 90-degree angles are not natural. They're not. Right. So neither are perfectly smooth spherical type spheres like this. And the other thing that I forgot to mention, this is again goes to human activity and our own like arrogance and stupidity. But when they gave all of these spheres away, somebody started a rumor that there was gold inside. And so a lot of people drilled a hole into their sphere and then stuck dynamite in it to blow up the sphere, only to find, shock upon shock, more rock. Hey, that's rhymed. Go me. But yeah, so that was something that we did too. We blew up a lot of them thinking that there was gold inside, and they were going to get rich if they did this. There have been obviously theories and people speculating that it's something to do with aliens and even the lost continent of Atlantis.
I don't know that it's that far of a jump to think alien or some otherworldly type of influence when you're talking about 600 BC and a perfectly round sphere with no chisel marks. Okay, 200 BC.
200 BC.
Okay. I don't know that 600 BC and 200 BC is going to make that big a difference when it comes to a round sphere with no chisel marks. My other question would be, is it indigenous stone? You know, a lot of the things that really catch my eye is when you hear of like a temple being built, you know, and first of all, it's in an ungodly location like Machu Picchu. And then secondly, like the stone that it's constructed out of, like the closest source for that stone is like 1,600 miles away. And they're like, yeah, so these guys wanted to use this stone and they trucked it over and then they rolled it across logs and they carried it with oxen. And then they climbed up this incredibly vertical plateau footpath so they could build this thing on top of this mountaintop. Okay. Sure they did. Sure. And when they built it, you know, 3,000, 6,000 years ago, as it still stands today, you can't slide a piece of paper in between the stone cuts because they're that well fit. And there's no chisel marks on them. Okay. You know, at what point from, even if you're a scientist, at what point do you just throw your freaking hands in the air and you're just like, I got nothing on this one. I'm going back to something I can explain. Like I'm going back to something that I could actually wrap my head around. I've got nothing to say here. You know, how do we make a perfect cut? How do we make a perfect gigantic 60-ton boulder cut so precisely that if it wasn't cut with a laser, what the hell was it cut with? Right? It would have to be cut with something like a wet saw, which they didn't have the technology for back then either. And they obviously didn't have any lasers back then either.
No.
Well, as far as we know.
Yeah. Yeah.
There might have been lasers around, but the indigenous people didn't own any lasers. Let's put it that way.
So most of these spheres are granodorite. Never heard of that before, which is shocking to me. But it's a hard indigenous rock that comes from the outcropping in the foothills of the nearby Talamanca Mountains.
Okay, so it's close in proximity to where they found them.
Right. So they're saying that they probably chose boulders that were like rounded in general as they are, but you know, even this still says that even if they did it like that, making them into the spheres and making them smooth like they are still would have been a huge undertaking because you know all they had was they say that they probably made them smooth with sand or leather, which is something obviously we still do today with sandpaper and stuff like that. Right. The article did not talk about like carvings and stuff on the stone, but there's a photo of close up of one of the spheres. I mean, and it literally looks like they're geometrical shapes. There's like circles in a circle. I mean, it looks like they were designed, like they had designs on them, and they weren't just spherical stones. And I don't know because they do look faded, so who knows how they would have looked like back in, you know, the 200 BC or whenever they were made, as opposed to 700-800 years, you know, of sitting in the jungle, you know, being eroded. So it's very interesting. I mean, I think that this is probably one of those things that probably could have not reshaped, but added to our history as human beings, especially in that area that was lost and will forever pretty much be lost. You trying to look up the photo?
I mean, I would agree. Like, yeah, no, I did. I had not heard that there, like when I looked at it and then I had saw that we talked and you said you were going to do it. I didn't really spend a lot of time looking at it, but I had not noticed that there was any type of like carvings on the stones that might be important. So I was just pulling them up real quick, like pictures of them to see if they had any good pictures. And off the top of my head here, I don't see I see some with holes drilled in them. Now, whether those were there or somehow created during the process of making them sphere-like, I don't know.
So I just
There's
sent you the actual article that I'm on, and it does have a close up of one of the stones on it.
Gotcha. I'm gonna pull it up here while we're talking. So
Right.
it seems to me too that while we're talking about the stones, that there seems to be a lot of stuff that comes from that part of the world, whether it be the Mayans or the Inca, that had some really advanced, what we would call advanced technologies for their time. And I think that that's true in a lot of the things that they pulled out of the jungle and or discovered, removed, and finding chambers and finding this and finding that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Are you still with me?
Yeah, no, I'm still here. I was thinking about something and kind of got distracted. But yeah, no, I agree with you on that one. I think there's history out there that's still left to be discovered.
Oh yeah, I see what you're
do-
talking about. That totally looks like it.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely there is. There's, I tell you what, with the introduction of LiDAR, which I think LiDAR is a phenomenal, that's a great discovery. And I think that tool is going to, for the archaeological world, I think that tool is indispensable, and it's going to open up just an absolute ton of great archaeological discoveries in the next 100 years. I do see exactly what you're saying here on this close-up of one of the spheres. That absolutely looks like that's some sort of map of something, or some sort of written, some sort of recorded incident in time that's carved into that sphere that has just gotten beaten by weather.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, who knows what? I mean, and when you look at them from far away, like you're trying to get the full sphere, then yeah, you're gonna miss all of the stuff. It just looks like stone. But when you get up close, you can see that they tried to carve stuff into it.
Yeah, somebody certainly was trying to carve some type of pictographic image in there to record whatever was happening at that time in their civilization. No doubt about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, but
Yeah.
for now, it's just going to have to go unsolved as to what they were for. And, and honestly, like I said earlier, if they were for to show a person's power and status in the community, who got to display these on their lawn, then they're still doing it today. And you're welcome, history.
Exactly. And sorry that you were the guy that had the golf ball size power stone in your front yard when your neighbor had the one the size of a Volkswagen Beetle.
Well, the world needs ditch diggers too, Dave.
Absolutely. And just like they are there today, they were there back then. So, all right. I like that.
Well, hold on. One last question.
Yep. Go ahead.
10 points if you can name the movie that line comes from. The world needs ditch diggers too.
Does
it sound familiar?
Yeah.
No, Jack Nicholson did not say it. I will give you a hint. And
okay.
Chevy Chase is in the movie. He's not the one that says it though.
Christmas Vacation.
No. Close though. Caddyshack.
Oh, damn it. My second favorite Chevy Chase movie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The kid's walking down the thing trying to convince the judge to give him that scholarship, and he's like, my parents can't afford to send me to college, and the judge is like, yeah, well, the world needs ditch diggers too.
Yep, I do remember that now.
All right, anyway, moving on to yours, Dave.
All right, so we are staying kind of in that South America region, and something. This honestly, when I was a kid, like looking through my Encyclopedia Britannica set, because that was the internet back when I was growing up.
That was
I found pictures of this stuff, and it made me pause even when I was a little kid, like looking stuff up just for interest. So it's the Nazca lines. So for anybody who doesn't know what these are, if you don't recognize the name, if you're into the paranormal, if you're listening to the show, I'm sure that over somewhere during your lifetime, you have seen images of these. They are located in Peru, about 250 miles south of Lima, Peru, actually. And they were created by the ancient Nazca culture. And they are geoglyphs of a multitude of things, but the ones that really stand out, the first one that I ever saw was images of like insects and what they call the astronaut and the hummingbird. And God, I think there's 80, somewhere between 80 and 100 like geoglyphs of actual depictions of like plants and or insects and or beings. And then there's another like 1,000 or so of like shapes, like geometric shapes, triangles, squares, spheres, octagons, hexagons. And then there's another 1,000 or so of just various connective lines that run across there. So the thing that I love about this, and they have absolute, so I'm going to say this right up front too, since we're talking about things that have stumped scientists. And I did a ton of reading on this because this fascinates me as a human being and as an investigator. Like the scientific community has absolutely no freaking idea what the hell these are for. They have no clue whatsoever. They range anywhere from like pointing to water tables, to ancient ceremonial sites, to the ancient peoples praying for water. I'm going to put this into perspective right now. That is such an asinine thing for a scientist to say, because this particular region, and I'm being serious here now, it's an asinine statement to think that these were used as some type of water, like leading to water tables. This region, this plateau, the Nazca Plateau, receives 1 millimeter of water a season. So I don't want to burst anybody's bubble here. I'm not a scientist, but I'm going to tell you, at 1 millimeter of water per season, nobody was freaking using these to lead you to water tables, because there is no water on the plateau. That's why after thousands of years, these things were created. For the most part, they were created between 500 BC and 500 AD, and into that 1,000-year time frame. The amount of effort it takes to make these things, and the fact that the majority of them can only be appreciated from outer space or from high up in the sky, leads me to believe that, from all the things that I read, that scientists think that they are just way off course here. This totally is something that was designed to project images out to whatever was in the skies right around 0 AD, or right around the 0 mark. So whatever was patrolling the skies, whatever was at an elevated position that somebody wanted to reach out to, that somebody wanted to communicate with, that's what these creations are for. I don't know that you couldn't replicate them today, but if you go back in time and you take a look at the technologies and the understanding of technology that the peoples back then had, that the civilization had, that, and this is according to scientists, and I guess in a way I do believe this aspect of their research, that without having some type of aerial view to orchestrate the movements of the people on the ground, it would be impossible for them to draw out the images that they drew out over the terrain that they drew it out of. Some of these things are gigantic. God, now of course I don't have it right off the top of my head, but 70 plants and animals, blah, 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 some of which measure up to 1,200 feet long. Examples include spider, hummingbird, cactus, monkey, whale, llama, duck, tree, flower, lizard, dog, obviously the astronaut, which was one of the things that always intrigued me as a kid. I don't know what they were for, but they were difficult to make. I know that because the way that they made them is that with no water being on this plateau, the way that these things were made is that they took the top layer, which is like a crust, because obviously it's not wet. It's all sun-baked. And so it's like a crust. Somebody referred to it in one of the articles that I read that it's like a shellac, like somebody came out and shellacked the desert over, that there's actually like a crust top to it. And what they did is they broke through the crust and dug down anywhere from 8 to 12 inches and released this, or basically just exposed the soil underneath, which is this kind of funky gray yellow color. And they created these images. The ultimate question here is why? And science has absolutely no clue. The interesting thing too is that with the use of drones now, with modern technology, and this is obviously not like last year, but in 2011, a Japanese team that was there discovered a new geoglyph that appears to represent a scene of decapitation, which at about 4.2 meters long and 3.1 meters wide is far smaller than any of the other Nazca figures and not easily seen from aerial surveys. Turns out that these people were known to collect trophy heads, and some research that was based in 2009 revealed that the majority of trophy skulls came from the same populations as the people they were buried with rather than outside cultures. So it almost sounds to me, the way I read that, is that they were trophy hunters, head hunters, but they were trophy hunters and head hunters within their own civilization rather than going to outside civilizations. I don't know if that necessarily makes, I don't think that actually comes into play when you're talking about why did they create these gigantic figurines out in the middle of this plateau, but I found it to be interesting. They also found in 2016, the same team found another geoglyph using modern technology and using drones that depicts a 98-foot long mythical creature that has many legs and spotted markings with its tongue sticking out. I saw that one. To me, it doesn't look like a mythical creature. It almost looks like a salamander. It almost looks like a combination between a salamander and a millipede, kind of. And since 2018, Peruvian archaeologists have announced that they discovered more than 50 new geoglyphs in the region, also using drone technology to map out landmarks in unprecedented detail, which I think, too, LiDAR would be a great resource here. You don't necessarily have to uncover anything, but it'd be interesting to see what LiDAR would find if there's anything hidden 10 feet down, like an altar or some type of burial chamber or some type of void that they could excavate, although it's a World Heritage Site now. So I doubt very much that they're going to do any type of excavation. It's kind of like asking the guys to excavate the mesa. I just don't think it's going to happen.
I didn't know
So
if it was my.
have you seen these before?
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I never done much research on them. I mean, I knew what they were and what they are, and some of the line. Like I knew about the hummingbird, I knew about the spider and the astronaut and stuff like that. What I didn't know, and you've kind of alluded this to a couple times, is leading up to 2020, there's been 80 to 100 new figures found,
Right.
and archaeologists believe there's even more.
Right.
But they haven't found them all yet. The combined length of all the lines is more than 800 miles. So I mean,
Which is
for
crazy.
anybody, yeah, I mean for anybody who hasn't really looked these up and it's like, oh, they're just little pictographs and no, they're huge. Some of them, I mean, some of them are smaller, obviously. Dave,
They're gigantic.
Talked about some, but I mean,
Right.
Some of the largest ones are 400 yards long. So I mean, just think of
4 football fields.
Yeah. So I mean, and in this day and age, if you had modern technology, yeah, it wouldn't be so bad. You could do that in a week. But I mean, we're talking 400 to 200 BC.
Right.
Or as you said, 500 BC to 500 AD. So I
It's
mean,
kind of the general range that they give it, yeah.
So I mean, these things are, and they're good. Like it's not like they're a 5-year-old, went to kindergarten and finger painted. I mean, these things are good. I mean, people put a lot of work into it, and honestly, I'm almost wondering if the reason for it is almost like what we're trying to do now. We're trying to send, when we put a time capsule into like a satellite to send it through our solar system, and it has a message for any alien race that would find it. And it's almost like these inhabitants at the time that were making these were trying to say, here is what you will find on our planet. You will find a human, you'll find a dog, you'll find a cat, you'll find spiders, you'll find hummingbirds,
plant life,
right. Cactus, trees.
We have plant life, right? Exactly. Trees, butterflies,
like it just seems to be like their way of communicating to the heavens what the earth offers, or what you will find on the planet that they knew about at the time. So whether that's the case or not, I don't know. I mean, you would almost literally have to find some sort of ancestor of somebody who had like a journal of their great grandfather who built these, or as part of the tribe that did it and knows why. And heaven forbid, you'd ever find that. The sad thing is that
good.
Oh, I say the sad thing is, and I mean to change the subject a little bit, is that it seems that some of these are deteriorating because of
encroachment of mankind.
That's what I mean. Yeah. Again, our arrogance and our inability to take shit seriously.
Well, you've got three instances that I'll bring up. So one of them is due to the Pan American Highway. So obviously the Pan American Highway connects multiple important cities throughout South America, right? I mean, it's a much needed thing, for transportation, for transporting goods and services and whatever, and just for getting to locations without driving down dirt roads. The problem is, and nobody thinks about this ahead of time, or somebody got paid under the table to not care about it, is that nobody took into account what happens when it rains somewhere else. It doesn't rain in this plateau, but it rains elsewhere. And when that rainwater travels down all the concrete jungle of this Pan American Highway, and then that rainwater flows out and carries mud and debris. Well, it happened to go into one of these glyphs and damage it. Started to fill it in. I personally don't see anything wrong with emptying the shit out. It wasn't there to begin with. I don't see, I mean, if you can go in and start digging through ancient tombs in Egypt and doing excavations of ancient cities in Turkey and Iran and Iraq and these places where they're finding really, really old, incredible places that they're painstakingly, like with tiny paintbrushes, brushing sand off of a brick, right? You know, in order to preserve the site. I mean, that's how painstakingly careful they're being. I think that there's got to be a way that they could go in without damaging the initial integrity of these designs and clean out some of that debris and shit that's flowing in there instead of just complaining about it. So hopefully they are. Hopefully that they have found a way. We're smart enough now that we should be able to go there and be like, yeah, if we did this and this and we took these precautions, we could get this back to where it should be without like leaving any type of human footprints here. The second one that got damaged, and it was, I want to make sure I get it right before because I'm going to bash on Greenpeace here. So the hummingbird geoglyph, which is one of the most famous ones known, Greenpeace, you know, in their almighty wisdom, decided during a media stunt that they were going to go and lay a large sign promoting renewable energy down over a portion of the hummingbird that disturbed the upper layer of rocks and then trampled it and screwed up a portion of the hummingbird. I'm sorry. But if you're going to run around and chain yourself to trees so that the world doesn't get deforested, have some effing respect for ancient civilizations and things that they left for us. You know, don't go in there messing shit up and then trying to pat yourself on the back and talk about what good you're doing. I'm not a fan of Greenpeace, but anyway. So, and then in 2018, a commercial truck driver was arrested after he drove onto a portion of the Nazca lines, etching deep scars into the area roughly 100 feet by 330 feet. The damage caused by the truck driver renewed calls for greater security and surveillance at the sites, which I agree. It wasn't that long ago that it became UNESCO World Heritage Site. I don't remember. God, don't quote me on this, but I'm going to say it was like maybe 2004. I don't know. Maybe it's older than that. I don't have it right off the top of my head.
1994.
Well, 94. Okay. So I wasn't that far off.
Only 10 years.
I think it's a great thing that they claimed this site. The thing that really, now that we've kind of thrown out the gist of like what these things are and like the fact that they exist, the thing that really amazes me, other than their longevity, and I wonder, obviously their longevity comes from the fact that they're not getting washed out by rain. So I wonder if the people that created these images knew that they would be around, I don't want to say forever, but be around forever, because natural weather patterns weren't going to disrupt what they created. Like, I wonder if they had that knowledge. Or I wonder if they were constantly making them in the thought of, well, yeah, we made this really great ant and we made this really great hummingbird and this cactus and this flower, but we should probably make some more in case these things get wiped out, you know? And so they continued the process. I wonder if like any of like thoughts like that came into their minds. Like if they knew that they would be around forever, and not that they're going to be around forever, nothing's around forever, but that they were going to be around for a very long period of time, because of the climate in that region.
Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely possible. I mean, it's hard to know without knowing what their natural, intent was. I mean, when you original intent was.
Right.
So I mean, when I watch television shows when they deals with people trying to go back and discover history or figure out what people were trying to do, it's always like they put it in a place where they knew it wouldn't be disturbed, where there was
Right.
no way that they could be um, naturally destroyed. So I mean, digging trenches in a place that gets no rain, um, or sandstorms or anything that would naturally erode them, would definitely make it known that they would be around for a very, very long time. But it's one of those things where we want to say in our arrogance that we're so much more evolved than they were. They were so much simpler back then. So you ask yourself, who had the idea of doing this and had the, I guess, brain power, the knowledge, the forethought. That's what I'm looking for. The forethought of making them and putting them in a place where they would be, that long. I mean, because humans, I think in general, and there's always exceptions to the rule, are very short-sighted people. Like we're always thinking in the short term instead of the long term. So these would have had to have been designed and the idea given for the long term, unless they didn't care about the long term and they just got lucky.
Which could be, and maybe that's why they continued to make them, right? I mean, maybe they were like, well, I mean, at some point though, right? Like if it had gone through generations of the civilization, right? Like your great grandfather and his friends created the hummingbird, right? And so you're a youth of this civilization, and you're being told this by your elders. And then you want to continue the tradition. I would think that you would have, and it doesn't matter how in what time frame. I mean, you would have the common sense. Obviously, common sense is common sense. You would have the common sense knowledge that, hey, my grandpa did this, and it was like 500 years ago. And I can still go and witness these today. If we walk up to the top of this peak, I can kind of see the outline of this gigantic creature, this gigantic hummingbird or this gigantic ant that my great grandfather did. So I think I want to continue that. And so maybe that person, and his friends, when they were given permission or when they got old enough or whatever, however it was decided who gets to make them, were the team that went out and made the astronaut, or were the team that went out and made something else. What just happened to that comment? Do you see that?
No, I deleted it.
Oh, you did?
Mm-hmm.
It was in French.
Yeah.
Did you read it?
I don't read French, but I'll tell you afterwards. Continue with what you were talking about.
So anyway, I wonder if they witnessed that themselves and they were like, well, these obviously are going to stick around for a while. So it's important that these things that are happening in our civilization right now and our culture right now that are important to us, that we want to leave for future generations, for future peoples, future civilizations. Because I think somewhere, and I don't care how far back in time you go, I think somewhere in certain people in every civilization, somebody has that idea of, we need to record this stuff so to show that we were here, like to show future peoples that we were here, and we do it now. And when and I think you hit a very interesting point when you said, like, these were representations to the sky people, because if you watch Ancient Aliens, that's what that's kind of in this episode they did. Well, they've done a lot of episodes on this topic, but in the episode that I watched today, a short clip out of it, they were referring to them as sky people, that if you want to show the sky people that these are the things that they can find if they come and visit you, which makes sense to me, it goes hand in hand with in 1974 when we sent to like Mesa 12 or Messiah 12 or something along those lines, which is this cluster group of stars that's 25,000 light years away, that we sent an information packet. And in that information packet, we showed them that we understood prime numbers, and that we understood chemical reactions, and that we understood music, and that we understood literature, and that we understood these things. And we sent this out in an encrypted packet in 1974. Now, it isn't going to get to this cluster for 25,000 light years. So obviously, we're all going to be long gone by then. But the point being is that we were trying to express ourselves and potentially show another civilization of peoples that, hey, look at us. This is what we're accomplishing right now in our lifetime. This is what we're doing right now and on our planet. What are you guys doing? And I can't wait for the day when we share that stuff in a more time-friendly fashion instead of light years away. Like, I can't wait for the day when the wormhole, black hole, vortex, portal, cover-up just goes away, and they're just like, yeah, we've got a couple of locations that are like this. And that we can actually communicate with other civilizations. And we just didn't think you guys could handle it. And then we get to actually get 0 point energy, if that's what is really out there, if that's something that's really there.
I definitely think that that's something that's out there.
I think so too.
But
well, we got two topics in an hour, so no sense starting here.
Well, my next one was kind of like just a mention, because I think that this is something that can be put into a full show, but it's definitely a mystery that still is today, and that's the lost colony of Roanoke.
There you go.
And I wanted to look this up for quite a while, because it's really kind of interesting. So 1585, a colony of British and English settlers wanted to found a new colony. And so they went to Roanoke Island, which is now called it's like the outer rim islands or something like that in North Carolina.
They're developing those, that right now. Roanoke Island is actually, within the last 6 months, I just saw a thing that there's a big development site, a company that is going to develop that island. So it's going to be condos. So much for history.
Watch them all disappear. So within 5 years, so like the kind of one of the founders of the island left in 1586 to go back to England for supplies. And when he returned in 1590, he saw that Roanoke all the inhabitants were gone, and that like the fortifications and stuff like that were there, but they had been dismantled, but not like blown up or destroyed. Like they were carefully and like with feeling like dismantled, like put down, like people cared about it. Right. All they found, and the person who, I think his name was White, but when he left, he told them that if they were attacked, like by the local tribe, that they should carve a cross into one of the trees. to let them know when they came back that is what happened. Well, they didn't find anything like that. All they found was the word Croatoan that was etched into one of the, we call it the palisade, which is what, a column, something like that. But yeah, okay. And it's funny because they thought that meant that they had all gone to Croatoan Island, but they could not find them there. And we're talking about 112 to 121 colonists disappeared. Nobody knows what happened. Like there were no bodies at Roanoke Island. There, it didn't look like anything had been destroyed, anything, that any sort of attack or massacre had happened. It's been suggested that maybe the colonists had integrated with the Indian tribe, but like no DNA evidence, no evidence whatsoever of like the mixing of DNA or ancestors or anything like that would have the DNA of these English settlers has ever been found. They just, for all intents and purposes, disappeared or like dissembled their home and then just walked away. And nobody has any.
Where though, right?
Exactly.
Because we're talking about colonization times here. It isn't like there's massive cities built that you could just go and a short day's journey and then just kind of integrate into, just become a citizen of this colony, of some other major colony happening. That wasn't the case.
Exactly. And, and it's not like, they did investigations. So, I mean,
right.
It's not like they just shrugged their shoulders like, well, they're gone. Let's go back to England. Right. I mean, they tried to find them. I mean, none of them were ever seen again, these colonists. And it's still a mystery to this day. And I honestly, I absolutely love Sleepy Hollow's version of it. The show Sleepy Hollow that
was a good show.
It really was. I started binge watching it again, like a couple weeks ago, but they have an episode where they come across the lost colony of Roanoke, and it's in some sort of, like time shield, almost like what Wonder Woman did, with that island that was like, had this energy shield around it. So it couldn't be perceived unless you actually went into it. And I thought that was a very interesting take on it. But but I mean, this is one of those things where I really I just want to bring it up really briefly, because I think that like Atlantis, like Roanoke, like there could be an entire show on just lost colonies, civilizations, that sort of thing. So look for that in the future. But I just wanted to bring it up because it's always interested me. And again, it's something science still can't explain. And according to this, when they're talking about DNA, they've tried to figure it out.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, that does it here. That is the end of the show. So, Dave and I will be back next week with another brand new episode. Again, anybody who wants to send their stories at your own risk, apparently, after tonight.
Yeah, well, the role you were on today, I'd be afraid to send a story in. So I will choose stories like I normally do, and I will find some stories that Mike does not.
If it is
get all excited about.
If it's a legitimate question story, I never act like that. It's just when
I know you.
So odysseyfilesradio@gmail.com, or you can send in your story on any of our social media. But we'll be back next week. So stay healthy, stay safe. We want to see you back here. Everyone, have a great night.